Welcome to Tipline. This is our roundup for consumer-facing news for the last couple weeks. First of all, Alienware laptops catching on fire. Battery banks still catching on fire. We talked about that last week, how there's a recall for Bazius. There's another one now, actually there's a couple, for Anker. Additionally, Nintendo Switch 2 hardware and account level bans, especially if you try to use cartridges that could feasibly be used for piracy. Wikipedia canceling its AI summary plans and the general make everything shittier approach of the internet right now with AI spam, and then a couple other stories as well. Let's get into it. We brought you this video with our Patreon page at patreon.com/GamersNexus. We self-fund all of our own travel and never charge companies to visit their own booths, allowing us to maintain independence in our field reports. We film their stuff because we think it's interesting, and sometimes we walk away. And that's all because we rely on Patreon, our usual background ads, and our store. Lately on Patreon, we've started a revitalization effort, and we've posted a new Patrons Ask GN episode with Q&A and a behind-the-scenes post about what we have coming up. If you want to support our independent reporting and the way we don't sell fully paid-for coverage, especially as these trips cost us sometimes tens of thousands of dollars for 2 weeks in the field, head over to patreon.com/GamersNexus and sign up today. We have plenty more bonus posts coming. First of all, for those who aren't aware, this is Tipline. It's our series of news roundups, similar to hardware news on GamersNexus, that we're doing every couple weeks or so, every 2 to 3 weeks. We're running one of these. First up, I want to note that I was on the Better Offline podcast with Ed Zitron, and that is over on his channel. I'll link that below. But one of the things we talked about was NVIDIA and its sort of controlling nature and how I think it's been controlling with regard to media coverage. But we also talked about general AI thoughts. I'm so damn sick of the letters AI right now. But I think, if I remember correctly, his question was just a straight up like, what do you think about AI? And I remember sitting there trying to decide, do I go existential and get deep with this and share like what I actually think, or do I keep it kind of surface level and light? And we went existential because he is a fantastic host for that topic. So I'll link that below. Anyway, the first story. So multiple users on Reddit have reported fire and smoke claims relating to Dell and Alienware, or Dell's Alienware laptops. And these are separate from the smoke that Alienware gets when we review it on GamersNexus. One Reddit user claims to have counted 17 reports where Alienware M16 model laptops caught fire and damaged the motherboard. The post said that the fires have begun at several places in the laptops. Quote, some were simply damaged at the motherboard DC in, like mine. Some, the power pack DC in jack, arced and smoked, rarely leading to fire. Some of the laptops had visible smoke from above the keyboard coming from the center of the board somewhere, end quote. On the Dell community forum, user DC Uplink UK, whom we think is one of the same Redditors who was counted in this, or counting the 17 cases of fire damage, remarked on what he believes the main issue is in a comment. Quote, the failure is documented on multiple posts that the DC in ribbon is undersized for the load required and it needs to be recalled for safety, end quote. Now, Dell hasn't responded to that comment on its forum yet, at least at the time we're writing this. However, images on Reddit show fire damage where the DC power connects to the motherboard. Reddit users also reported issues with Dell's warranty and service department, to nobody's surprise, where people cited Dell denying their warranty or even installing the wrong motherboard for the service. Now, we haven't independently verified the claims of the Alienware fire issues at this point. We'll watch it for updates, though. There's enough there right now where it seems like it might be a thing, it might be a story, but we're going to keep an eye on it. Currently, there's limited source material available for this, so it's just reports at the moment. But if you hear more, let us know. Up next, Wikipedia editors are sparing us from the onslaught of even more shitty AI summary bots that pop up text at the top of pages and generally get things wrong than they normally are. 404 Media reported that Wikimedia Foundation, the nonprofit host for Wikipedia, has stopped an experiment where Wikipedia would show AI-generated summaries at the top of articles after backlash from the site's editors. 404 Media included a screenshot of what an AI-generated summary would look like on the Wikipedia article about dopamine. Now, weirdly, the screenshot for the dopamine AI summary didn't say the thing that makes you feel good when you're an investor and you hear the letters AI. Based on the screenshot, an AI summary on Wikipedia would disclose that it was machine generated and has not been checked for accuracy. Okay, seems like generally a great feature and ethos for an encyclopedia to have. Just not checking for accuracy or having any balances whatsoever. The AI summary also has a yellow unverified tag, which doesn't really fix any of the problems. Now, doing this would reset, I think, Wikipedia back to sort of the beginning, where it was like decades of Wikipedia trying to earn a place in, for example, schools, where I remember where teachers would reject Wikipedia as a source really early on. And as I approached sort of the end of my schooling, it was actually becoming accepted as a source as long as you checked the citations that it was citing. And actually, Wikipedia does have a better accuracy rating than some encyclopedias in some of these categories for topics. But enabling LLM summaries would put it into an unchecked, unreviewed situation where it's resetting everything. It's destroying that current de facto, I want to learn about a random subject and have reasonable faith that it's pretty accurate, and just like resetting that completely back to the beginning. So this wouldn't be any better, honestly, than just asking ChatGPT a question and taking whatever it spits out, right or wrong. If the experiment had gone through, Wikipedia would have allowed, quote, a small set, 10%, of readers to opt in and open pre-generated summaries on a set of articles for 2 weeks, end quote. And just to be clear here, a small set being 10% of Wikipedia's traffic would be millions upon millions of users. The experiment would have been on Wikipedia's mobile website as well. 404 Media pointed to the Wikipedia page about the experiment called Simple Summaries, and 404 noted that it has comments from Wikipedia's editors, with one of them being quoted in the article and on that page as simply saying, quote, yuck. One particular editor, Jack from Wisconsin, was quoted as saying this, quote, gross. If this happened on Wikipedia, I'm done. What makes Wikipedia unique in 2025 is we don't accept unedited AI garbage. If a non-wiki editable process is responsible for showing content on Wikipedia, you have successfully killed the website. It's Wikipedia, for goodness sake, end quote. Now, due to ire from the editors, the Wikimedia Foundation paused the project before the AI trial began. But the Wikimedia Foundation told Engadget that the experiment was intended to gauge interest, and it said this to Engadget, quote, the Wikimedia Foundation has been exploring ways to make Wikipedia and other Wikimedia projects more accessible to readers globally. This 2-week opt-in experiment was focused on making complex Wikipedia articles more accessible to people with different reading levels. I'll jump in here for some commentary. This is what sets GNCA apart a little bit from GN, because I want to get some commentary in here. So there's maybe 2 reasons that you would do this for different reading levels. One of them is if the article content is written in a language that the reader does not read natively or at a native level, meaning it is a second or third or whatever language. And in that case, simplifying the language could be done with the intent to help them better understand it. But the second reason might just be because someone who does speak it at a native language doesn't have the vocabulary necessary to understand the article, and it was written at a level higher than what they can understand. And we'll start with the second one. So the second one, if it's just someone goes to the page and they don't understand, like if I go to a Euclidean mathematics page, I don't expect to understand fucking anything on that page. And that's fine, because where it goes from there should be, okay, I take the thing that I think I want to know about, I'm going to go do more research and try to find the base components of that and build my understanding with building blocks. Not, I'm going to pipe this into some maybe accurate LLM that spits out a shittier version of the same thing where it might just actually be losing meaning or wrong. Like, that's not helpful. And it just seems like it's going about things the wrong way, and maybe that's like old man yells at cloud stance. But if that's what it is, then I'm going to yell at a lot of LLM-shaped clouds for a long time. The other reasoning, the language one, same thing. I mean, if I'm trying to read something in one of my non-native languages I speak, I still want the original material, and then I'll go line by line, translate with something that's a more literal translator if I need to, or a dictionary to learn those words, rather than pipe it through something that dumbs it down, because it's just risky to do that. You're getting away from base material. But anyway, I don't buy this excuse from Wikipedia personally. But anyway, they continued. with Engadget. They said, quote, "For the purpose of this experiment, the summaries were generated by an open-weight IA model by Cohere. It was meant to gauge interest in a feature like this and to help us think about the right kind of community moderation systems to ensure humans remain central to deciding what information is shown on Wikipedia," end quote. And Wikipedia is one of the most popular websites on the internet. SimilarWeb claims Wikipedia is the 8th most visited site in the world. SimilarWeb's data puts ChatGPT in 5th, behind Google, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And for a sense of size, Wikipedia should have more than 49 million registered users according to its own internal data, and over 111,000 active registered users, which actually doesn't seem like that many compared to that viewer count. That shows me the disparity between editors and why they have so much power on the site when something bad happens. Up next, the Switch 2 just came out, and Nintendo is already on a speedrunning trial to get rid of people who are using third-party hardware, and specifically stuff like cartridges that could feasibly be used for piracy but might not always be. Some Switch 2 owners claim that Nintendo has banned their new consoles from online services, including multiplayer gaming and Nintendo's eShop, after using a MIG flash cartridge to play games. And one thing Nintendo might have to think about in a situation like this is if banning users for using MIG flash cartridges brings attention to the existence of MIG flash cartridges, then are they creating a Streisand effect where people who didn't know about MIG flash cartridges are suddenly hearing about MIG flash cartridges all the time, and then they start looking up MIG flash cartridges and trying to learn what MIG flash cartridges are? There is a risk that people do that. The MIG flash cartridges can load micro SD cards with copies of Switch games, whether the games were acquired legally or illegally. The MIG flash is marketed to help people back up their games on a single card. That's the marketing. But the cartridges are also, of course, known for enabling piracy. After using MIG cartridges on Switch 2 consoles, several people saw the error code 2124-4508. Nintendo says this error translates to an online device ban. Quote, "This error code indicates that Nintendo Switch console you are using has been permanently banned from connecting to the internet due to a breach of the user agreements," end quote. One additional thing to worry about here is how this behaves if someone were to then go and sell that device on the secondhand market later, if it remains banned and if you would know about it before the purchase. A YouTube channel by the name Scattered Brain documented the experience about his bricked Switch 2. In the video, Scattered Brain confirmed that he could not access Nintendo's online services or delete his account off the Switch 2. He could still play offline games and connect to Nintendo's eShop when using his original Switch, though. Scattered Brain also said that he used the MIG cartridges only for games he purchased, claiming that there was no, quote, illegal activities, end quote. In a second video, Scattered Brain bought another Switch 2 and successfully logged in with his account. He concluded that Nintendo bans devices after using the MIG cartridge rather than the user accounts themselves. All of these reports follow Nintendo's user agreement changes. Before the Switch 2 even launched, Nintendo updated its user agreement to say that it could brick consoles if users violate the rules. Quote, "You acknowledge that if you fail to comply with the foregoing restrictions, Nintendo may render the Nintendo account services and/or the applicable Nintendo device, both or either, permanently unusable in whole or in part." That's end quote with my insert in there. Further, Kotaku reported this isn't the first time Nintendo has tried to stop the MIG cartridges. Quote, "Nintendo started suing people who sell the MIG Switch last year and designed the Switch 2 so that the carts wouldn't work with it. The makers of MIG Switch, however, recently released a firmware update that made it possible to use the device to load Switch 1 games on the Switch 2, end quote. Nintendo has taken a firm stance against anything that could even remotely enable piracy, whether it's being used that way or not, with the Switch 2, which means customers who are playing backups of games they legally purchased may end up in possession of a $450 paperweight. Up next, there are more battery bank recalls in the news. This is different from the Bazius ones in the last episode of Tipline we did. Unfortunately, this seems to be a very common thing. Anker is recalling more than 1.1 million power banks due to fire hazard risks and actual fires that have happened in the field. The product recall affects the Anker PowerCore 10,000 power banks with the model number A1263. The U.S. Consumer Product and Safety Commission said the lithium-ion battery in the power bank can overheat, causing fires and burns. The government commission also said that Anker had received 19 cases of fires and explosions, with 2 reports of minor burn injuries and 11 reports of property damage, which the U.S. CPSC says totals over $60,700. Anker manufactured the fire-prone power banks between January 2016 and October 2019. The power banks were sold online at Anker, Amazon, Newegg, and eBay from June 2016 to December 2022 for about $27. If you own an Anker power bank, the company has a support site where you can check your serial number and submit a request for a recall. Anker will send a free replacement power bank for impacted customers or a $30 gift card if replacements are on back order. But unless you like fiery e-waste, you may want to be careful if you continue to use Anker products just broadly, but especially those affected. ZDNet reported that fire hazard recalls are not uncommon for Anker. The site stated, quote, "This isn't the first recall Anker has issued in the past year or so. In June 2024, the company issued recalls for 3 different products. In September 2024, a notice was sent out for the 334 Mag Go power bank. This past December, Anker told people to stop using the Soundcore Bluetooth speaker and 2 PowerConf S3 Bluetooth speakers." ZDNet continues, quote, "The one aspect that all 4 recalls share is that the products have been labeled as fire hazards. Anker has never published an official statement explaining what's going on with its batteries," end quote from ZDNet. Honestly, with that many recalls or fire hazards in that recent history, it's probably time to just buy something else. If you own one of the recalled Anker power banks, you should definitely go through the process of swapping it or at least getting it out of your possession. So as we said last time with the Basius recall, there's specific ways to deal with lithium ion waste. You're going to have to check your local regulations. That's sometimes city by city, definitely can be state by state. And they all have different requirements for recycling lithium ion batteries. There's also specialized organizations that'll handle some of that. So definitely get it out of your possession, though, through the proper means if you have one that's potentially at risk. And if you have one that's ballooned already, you need to find a way to properly dispose of it ASAP. All right, up next, Anker again recalling even more things. This happened during the write-up of the last fiery story. They had another one in the middle of writing the last one. So they issued a voluntary product recall for 5 more power banks. That is how much this company has fucked up. Anker said it identified a, quote, potential issue. One potential issue, multiple times now. Anyway, they say it's with a lithium-ion battery cell from a single vendor, allegedly, after implementing a, quote, series of enhanced quality assurance protocols designed to detect manufacturing issues earlier in the production cycle, end quote. Anker sold the 5 power bank models in multiple markets, but did not specify exact countries. The company said it was working with regulatory authorities to follow local compliance and guidelines. It's not clear how many power banks in this voluntary recall are affected. Anker has a form, though, where customers can check their serial numbers and see if they're eligible for a replacement product or gift card. Anker recommends that anyone with a recalled power bank stop using it immediately. All right, and up last is another one for our AI bot overlords, where some websites that function as basically museums have been seeing a surge in traffic from crawlers that are crawling for purposes of LLMs, scraping data from websites, and training. This includes specifically sites for museums, libraries, archives, and galleries, some of which are at risk of being knocked offline due to traffic surges because they are maintained often by so few people with limited resources. A new report from GlamE Lab outlines how AI bots are overwhelming the servers for online culture sites, and in some cases, knocking the sites offline completely. GlamE Lab's report explains how AI bots are impacting the digital infrastructure for galleries, libraries, archives, and museums. The report is based on information from dozens of respondents with follow-up interviews after them, and initially the survey was sent to, quote, heritage and technology practitioners in GLAM, both in and outside of academia, end quote. Now, according to GlamE, quote, we asked institutions with online collections whether those collections were openly licensed or not, about their experiences with bots, building AI training data sets. Those questions focused on the technical impact bots were or were not having in their online infrastructure, end quote. The report states that it discovered widespread bots had caused a traffic surge to sites, with that traffic causing concerns for hosts that it could knock servers offline, and of course it would also increase the commercial value for the entities doing the scraping. GlamE wrote this, quote, one constant does seem to be that everyone notices when a site goes down or slows to a crawl because it is being swarmed by an unsustainably large collection of bots. If a site normally uses 20% of its allocated resources, a sudden jump to 40% utilization for a few hours will not impact the user experience, nor is it likely to meaningfully increase costs. However, when that 40% jumps again, to 90% or 100%, the impacts are felt immediately. Servers can stop responding, systems can break, and the team behind the site will find itself in an all-hands-on-deck situation, end quote. This is also another one that 404 Media wrote up in one of its recent reports. So that is it for this one. A lot of recall news this week, and we've got more coming up. So let us know what you want to hear about in this series next. If you see interesting topics, post them below. We've got some YouTube ranting going up. That was going to be in this episode, actually, but then I broke it out separately because I had a lot of ranting to do. So that's its own video. You're welcome, or I'm sorry. See you next time.